What's going on, everybody? Mr. Markowitz here today to bring you Lesson 3 in our unit on editing. Today we are talking about parallel editing or intercutting or cross-cutting, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. Basically, if you're watching a film and the action is cutting between two or more scenes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, we call that parallel editing or cross-cutting or intercutting. Okay, the idea is, you would have multiple scenes happening, not necessarily simultaneously, but typically these scenes are happening simultaneously, and by cutting back and forth between them, it sort of increases the tension or the suspense of the film. All right, let's take a look at an example from The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Pelham 1, 2, 3. This is Garber. Come in, Pelham 1, 2, 3.
All right, Garber, this is Pelham 1, 2, 3.
The money's en route, making pretty good time too, but it won't get to you by 3:13.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
So in this scene, Walter Matthau is asking this terrorist for more time, right? Robert Shaw's character has taken over a train in New York City and is requesting $1 million, and the city of New York has 1 hour to pay the $1 million or they'll start killing hostages. So we keep going back and forth between Walter Matthau in the control room and the terrorist in the subway car, and now we have the police officers on the street delivering the money. But the problem is there's a lot of people in New York City and the car's having a hard time getting there in time. And so throughout this scene, we keep going back and forth between Walter Matthau in the control room saying, listen, we need more time, and the terrorist on the train saying, no, we've given you enough time, and the police officers in the cop car driving through the city streets with the $1 million in their car, unsure if they're going to make it in time, if they're going to meet their deadline, or if the terrorists are going to start killing passengers. What happens? Well, you're going to have to find out and watch The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. It's a good movie. It's a good popcorn movie. Anyway, now here's an example where you have 3 different scenes, technically 4 different scenes if you count the cops as 2, because you got the car and you've got the cops who are just like on the street. So, but this is obviously all happening simultaneously because the film is trying to increase the suspense of the audience, right? But not always, right? Sometimes you can have scenes where the action is happening, years apart. Okay, we're going to watch in a few weeks The Social Network by David Fincher, where there will be a lot of parallel editing, where the Zuckerberg character is in this deposition room talking to lawyers, and then we cut to, years earlier in his college dorm room talking about how there was this cease and desist letter, and now we go back to the courtroom, back to the dorm room, back to the courtroom, back to the dorm room. And again, these scenes are happening years apart, but they're still commenting on each other. There's still a relationship between these scenes. And because we're going back and forth, we would still call this parallel editing or cross-cutting or intercutting. It doesn't matter, all right? Then there's this idea of screen direction, all right? Now, screen direction is another tool that's used to help convey this idea of continuity in your film, okay? The idea is that if you have a character, let's say in a wide shot, walking from left to right, and then we cut to a medium close-up of that character, they should still be walking left to right. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? If they're walking left to right in this shot, and then you cut to this and they're walking right to left, it's going to make it look like now they're walking backwards, right? And that doesn't work, right? That breaks the continuity. Let's take a look at this clip from Steve McQueen's Bullet. So notice in all of these shots, the cars are moving from left to right. He's facing left to right, and the cars move left to right. And now in this shot, again, still moving left to right, but the car is going to turn, and that's going to change the screen direction. Now we're going right to left. And so in a scene like this, especially in a scene where one character is chasing or following another character, that screen direction is really important. Because if character A is moving left to right, and then character B is moving right to left, it's not going to look like they're following each other. It's going to look like they're getting closer to one another, and that's not what we want, right? So screen direction, very, very important. Let's take a look at your lab assignment for this week, guys. You're doing another video because, hey, that's why you took this class, right? I want you to show parallel action between 2 or more scenes, all right? So you have 2 scenes ideally happening simultaneously. You've got character A over here, character B over here, and you're going to cut back and forth between those 2 scenes. What these characters are doing, it doesn't matter, okay? You can make it suspenseful, you can just make it, sort of ordinary, 2 people on the phone with one another, meeting up for lunch, whatever it is, but again, cutting back and forth between the 2 scenes. Then, I want to see at least one example where you maintain screen direction, okay? Characters walking in a wide shot from left to right in one shot, then we cut in to, some sort of medium shot or medium close-up, whatever, and they're still walking in that same direction. Makes sense, all right? 2 characters walking towards each other, maybe have character A going left to right, character B moving right to left, because again, these 2 characters are going to come together. Whatever. That's another example of maintaining screen direction. Unless they're chasing each other, and then anyway, then 2 characters, they're gonna meet at the end of the video. All right, if they're adversaries, the hero and the villain, then they meet, and there's this oh no moment, whatever. You don't have to show the whole confrontation, but the 2 characters are gonna meet, or they're friends, and when they unite at the end of the film, it's a friendly welcoming. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. No set number of shots, no set time limit. I don't care. Just make sure that you've got that parallel action, make sure that you've maintained some sense of screen direction, and make sure that your characters at the end of the video come together. All right, whether it be dramatically or just, hey, we've been quarantined for a while, whatever. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. All right, guys. I wish I wouldn't have put that part about the quarantine in there, because now this video is not going to make sense in a few years.